Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Democracy 3.0. This is our weekly meeting on Thursday nights. And Democracy 3.0 is a organization that innovates democratic processes and builds consensus. And our goal is to grow until we have enough numbers as a block of voters to have actual power in the country and tell the politicians what the people actually want and don't want. So we usually go in a circle. I guess I'll start and just share with you guys. We have right now we have a Discord server, so I'm going to put the Discord server link in the channel. Encourage everybody to join the Discord. And this week I have we have a Trello board so that everyone can collaborate on actions, things to do. Can everybody see this? So this is a Trello board. I think there's an invite in the Discord server. I'll put that there. And, you can just add cards here, brainstorm ideas, and then, move, and then you can move things to, to do, doing, and done. So these are, everybody's welcome to add to the Trello board. We use a concept of self-organization which comes from the Swedish Pirate Party and the concept of the swarm, which is that people can decide best what needs to be done. So if any two people in the organization, any two of you, if you agree about doing something, you can go ahead and just do it. You don't have to ask for permission. You can just do it. So yeah, I guess I was also working on this earlier today, a digital flyer for inviting people to the meeting with TC. And I'll just show people the beginnings of a flyer. I'm not very good at graphics and TC is not, but this is the language that we came up with. Democracy 3.0, frustrated with how things are going. Politicians never do what they promised, want to help make a difference. And then we've got the details for the meeting. So this is going to be on the Discord server. Everybody's welcome. There's to improve it. So with that, I'll yield my time and go to TC.
Hi, yes, I'm TC in TC Townsend. I live in Oceanside, California. I'm a retired carpenter, and I'm basically working on what I call deliberative democracy. And I spoke earlier about a platform we're going to experiment with this next Wednesday. And we have 9 people, and I got 4 of them signed up, and I get 4 more email addresses, but that's no shit for here. So anyway, we're going forward with it, and I told you we've been told to beware of the AI, and so it's going to be interesting. And like I said, if it works, I can see where we could get a group discussion with Brian's blueprint, and then Paul's got his herring thing. And so just take some of those items and, get 8 to 15 people and video that and share it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
All right, Neo.
Hey, my name is Neo, and I am I'm sorry, just what am I supposed to say?
However the spirit moves you. You can introduce yourself, talk about why you're here, what you're working on. The subject is Democracy 3.0, building an organization that innovates collaborative processes and gets big enough to tell the politicians what our consensus is and what we want done and not.
Well, I'm thinking, along with some very critical people here in New York, of building a think tank. I talked a little bit more about it. I looked up progressive think tanks. I think there's one in the universe. And I think that what we need is going to need one. And might as well start one that dare to fight for the interest of the people, because the strategy, you have to think outside the box. You know, I gave a lot of thought to a lot of different approaches that people have been coming up with, and I'm pretty impressed with um, I'm pretty impressed with the new ideas that are out there when it comes to uh, an approach that we all want. And we thought about forming a party. I took part of that. We also thought about doing a national party. We also considered Brian's idea of using whatever mechanisms you can to bypass um, whatever structures they are, and try to see if we can, you know, deliver a particular devastating cut with one good attempt. And even if the parties don't work out, even if you come up with a block, a union block, you could probably achieve um, um, policy that usually takes a lot of activism and a lot of. So ever since I've had this conversation with Brian at the party, I've been doing a lot of thinking, because this is going to take a strategy bigger than just a party, or maybe even this year's attempt at at the plan that he has brought up. But this is what think tanks do. We hit the sub. It's like you have to break this huge piece of ice, and we could blow torch fire on it, we could try to pick it with a knife, whatever it takes. A think tank usually goes in and thinks about this, comes up with strategy, talk to very smart people like yourselves, and eventually see what medium is out there for us to best, best accomplish what we want. And I, I've been giving it a lot of thought. I have brought in other people along with the idea, and I'm kind of very open-minded now, since this, these last few months. I've been very open-minded at looking for every way possible to accomplish whatever it is that we need. But we have to be smart about it. And no one smart person could do anything. You need a think tank. You need a group of people trying to want to do the same thing. And if we need to get expertise and volunteers and get a network going, um, we have set up something called a circle system, where it doesn't matter how difficult or big the project is. um, if you build the system properly, as volunteers come in, they have somewhere to go and something to do, and they'll never be bored. And if they want to take on more responsibilities, it can grow more. But it's a system that is designed to um, pretty much channel all the pieces that we need to get something done, even if it's just a volunteer based system. And this is how we're going to crowdsource a think tank, through volunteers. But these volunteers are not just going to be any volunteers. Their task may even include things that usually are only associated with think tanks, which is research and higher level um, studies and statistical analysis. But the system is designed so you never need a profession. You can you can train people to actually do what institutions do. So just if you guys like what I'm thinking about, then I even was thinking about getting a name, the Institution for Better Policy. Anyway, I guess that's it for now.
Thanks, Theo. Patricia, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patricia from New Jersey, formerly working with MPP. We just left the organization and created a small group in New Jersey that we are calling the United People's Assembly, and working together with the UPA. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a group that is trying to become a support system for third parties, state parties. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing, and I'm happy to be here and hear from all of you.
Thanks, Patricia. Keith, on to you.
Thank you, Eddie. Yeah, so along with Neo, and the idea of a think tank sprung up because we have been trying to build a party here in New York, and the requirements to do so are pretty onerous, right? Like, it's a lot of heavy lifting for a group to get started and form a party and elect candidates. We've been putting thought into how to give people direct access to democracy. And some of the ideas we've been kicking around are ballot initiatives, which are something that we do not have a direct route to here in New York as citizens. So with UPA, the United People's Assembly, we're working to build infrastructure, like a network of volunteers and activists and progressive thinkers that want to come together and share and pool resources to help organizations get off the ground and start going. So when we started to think about the things that we could do to have impact as just everyday citizens, we're thinking about things like striking and supporting people that go on strike. So there's a lot of overlap when you start looking at building a political organization, signing petitions, assembling people to carry out activism. So like this is a rolling need that has a lot of overlap with just on the ground people that are willing to network and share their personal resources with something to achieve something that we can't do on our own. So when we look at the dichotomy of how a party is formed and how humanitarian aid groups are formed and how activists unite to go and march and petition and hold signs together, there's a structural need that brings all of those things together. So if we can combine that network and distribute the resources that we've allocated across all these different methods and means of activity, then we'll cut out a big chunk of that hard first step of getting off the ground with a new idea. So the idea is to where we don't have the money and financial resources that other organizations may have to blast out advertising and do TV and radio ads and paper ads, all those things that these other organizations use their money for. We can circumvent that with human power. And that's where the focus, I think, should be moving. And, we're here to support however we can to share our knowledge with everybody else that's willing to share back with us. So that's why we're here.
Thanks, Keith. Brian.
And I want to thank Eddie for sharing this space. I have different goals than your stated goals of the organization, but I appreciate the opportunity to kind of talk with people and bounce ideas around. I think you guys all know me. I used to be a state representative in New Hampshire and developed the idea of crowdsourcing functional government by writing our own legislation and then leveraging our votes as swing voters to make it happen. And so that's what I'm continuing to work on. And so I'm in North Carolina, where originally it was a target state because it had a US Senate seat up for grabs and it had like 1 or 2 swing districts. And so, all right, I moved to North Carolina. And then the Republicans came in and they gerrymandered the districts. And suddenly the Senate seat was competitive, but the House districts really just weren't. Like, but then the Supreme Court stepped in and threw out the gerrymandered maps. And so I just, somebody just posted, it's not finalized yet, but it looks like maybe the new map for North Carolina will have 5 swing districts in it. And like, I can't tell you how amazing that would be to be able to focus on one geographic area. And by building a 3.5% block of voters in those 5 districts and having that carry over to 2% statewide, to be able to control the outcome of 5 House seats and 1 Senate seat, and the impact that that would have on the national conversation. Who wants to end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars? We know how to do it. We have it written down. We just need we need Congress to put it on the president's desk. And by setting up this model, essentially we can franchise these campaigns to swing districts around the country. Unfortunately, there's only about 40 of them this time around because of gerrymandering. But you get to plop somebody down in any one of these, and you've got a ready-made campaign ready to go to unite people around real solutions in 2022, and cutting through the gridlock and just trying to bring people together to solve problems. So I'm cautiously optimistic tonight that North Carolina will finally do the right thing and give me a whole bunch of swing districts in the state. And that over the next 6 months, like we'll change the national conversation. So I'm going to stop there, but I got other stuff to talk about next time around.
Thanks, Brian. I want to add on to something that Keith said about sort of bringing people and resources together. And for me, that brings up another project that I'm working on, which is called the Mutual Aid DAO, MADAO for short. And it is, it comes from some, sort of economic thinking that me and Brian have been doing for the last 2 years, where, I think that there are a lot of resources and talent and energy available, and that the way the current economy is set up, it doesn't utilize those resources right. And so Mutual Aid DAO is basically a community currency with a basic income. And so everybody who signs up, gets like 75 MADAO tokens every month. And I want to propose that potentially, political, organizations, if you have these, projects where, you need certain things, you can join the MADAO group. You'll get a basic income, and you can maybe, hook up with some people and say, I'm doing this thing, but I need some video editing, but I don't know how to do that. But maybe somebody else, knows how to do it, and they can do that for you. You give them, and then you pay them MADAO for that. And then, they may have other projects or things that they need help with, for their organizing, or even also for, things for their personal, needs, and things like that. So that just brought that up to me. I'll put an invite for that in the chat also. Mutual Aid DAO. Yeah, just another way to connect and organize and collaborate, I guess. So on to UTC.
Thanks, Eddie. Well, this is quite a group, and I like that you're talking about on the ground, get it done petitions, all the nuts and bolts of politics. And the one thing I hear everybody say is, if we can get the people together, and so my focus is really not on the legislation or the policies or the politicians or the parties or anything. It's how to get people where they can talk to each other so that they can hear what you're saying. Because right now they're in their tunnels, they're in their silos, and they can only hear what it is that they're listening to. And if they can learn to listen to other people and other things, then eventually they'll open up perhaps to your ideas. So that's where my focus is.
Go ahead, Neo.
Um, what was I supposed? Sorry. I heard the mutual aid, and that's actually awesome because do they also do training?
Yeah, but potentially, yeah. It is a very early stage project. Just got started a few months ago. But we can do anything. I mean, you can do training for other people. You can ask for training. Whatever you can get, whatever you can help someone with, or you can get someone to help you with, you can exchange made out for it, and it just makes it a little bit easier. It's like it solves the double needs where you need this, but you can help with that. But then, it can be.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because I came up with an idea. At first, I thought it was cheesy. Now that I come think of it, is more maybe more feasible but the idea was that in New York City they give away free phones. If you're on public assistance, and then if you want to become a distributor of these phones, they give you some type of commission. And pretty much the commission is to the point where it's not even worth you doing unless you're gonna hustle. And then at this point, it's not even worth its time. However, I was thinking, um, in New York, we have a lot of able homeless people. They have a lot of time in their hands because they have nowhere else to go. And we could get a lot of homeless and disenfranchised people involved as best as we could. But in order to even attend these meetings, you need a device. And I was thinking of maybe putting a group together where we could come up with some type of activist type of app. If we could, simply some apps, they're not that difficult to make if you keep it simple enough. And if we're gonna do a ground game, let's let's do some type of service where we could use the disenfranchised. We could give them a device, we could give them food, maybe some transportation, and whatever. These people will become very loyal to us because we're helping them, and their activism will hopefully bring our communities, um, like improvement of some sort. And this is literally the grounds game at the very, very bottom. But these are the people who they're fighting to get out of the streets. So they are so vested that if you give them an infrastructure to do their activism, and hopefully if we're successful enough to focus this activism, not just, you know, rallying in front of somebody's building and stuff, but actually doing things that move pieces in the board forward. Either the pressure helps to gain leverage, or maybe the mobilization of these people could create communities to come together, because we're we're finally trying to help the community in a way that is actually beneficial to the community rather than promises and stuff. Like they can actually see what's going on, but a ground game where we try to help through mutual aid, people could help probably build a good, uh, not a good one, a technological one where if we do this app properly, we could probably do all sorts of things from media reporting to surveying to things that are useful to either a party, independent media, or whatever a think tank thinks is needed to focus that energy to bring a network together to work on a particular objective.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea. I like it. Thank you, Neil. Go ahead, Patricia.
I'm not sure what you want me to go ahead with. I'm enjoying the ideas. I do love Neil's idea of making the app and coming together. I don't have any particular ideas at the moment to share. Yeah, that's it.
As the spirit moves you, and you're allowed to pass. So Keith, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about what TC just said about getting people together to share your message that would not normally hear it. And I think when we start to develop, ideas of new political parties and political systems, we're in an area that's already divisive and not willing to come together based on, whatever these divisive topics have been out there, like identity politics and all sorts of different things. So when we start to focus more on these ideas that have broad consensus across demographics and red and blue and all these different county lines and district lines, we can get people into the room and have them focus on those things that have that appeal without necessarily making it completely political, and I think that's a good way to have a better idea of voices and making better informed decisions, because you're going to hear more than just what would be in your normal echo chamber too. So I think there's something to tap into there. And I keep coming back to like the Powell memo, right? It defined 70 years of conservative politics, and I haven't seen anything from the other side, nothing progressive that's set out a plan of action for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Keith, can you refresh our memory what that memo was?
Yeah, so the Powell memo came out in the late 60s, early 70s, and it was a way that the Chamber of Commerce attacked the United States government at every level to get conservative voices into positions of power. And they focused a lot on judicial seats so they can control the way that decisions were made on legislation and lawsuits that would help further the corporate agenda to funnel power back up towards like a smaller group of people that had financial influence across the country to protect their own interests. And going back that far, they had a very defined message. And once I'm done rambling, I can put a link into chat for people for Powell memo. But it's something that the most conservative of our country have adhered to for the better part of 3 generations. So the idea of unraveling that and coming to a point where the people actually have their voices heard, and we switch that paradigm from being that small financial elite to the masses of people that are not as well endowed. I think that's the way forward. And I think there's so much overlap that we're secluded from just from our everyday messages that we hear. So I think if we're able to group these people together to have a network that's easily dispatchable for action, or even just thinking and combining and collaborating on things and making informed decisions on things as a collective, and also having that platform in place where we have diverse speakers and opinions that don't normally disseminate across all those groups. I think that's how we start to break down these faux walls that have been built up all around us. I think that's going to be key. Anything we want to do.
Keith, that's great. That's great. I think a lot of us agree with what you're saying. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of the things that are being said. And Keith, as you know, universal basic income is the best solution to ensuring that the people have the resources to just say no to coercive requests, I guess, from those with more money. And yeah, so this week, well, we've got our approval, so we're all set to set up our super PAC for the American Union. So that'll be, and so some people have asked, like, why a PAC? Like, aren't PACs evil? And PACs are a tool. If the goal is to influence the outcome of the election, then a political action committee is the tool to influence the outcome. And like any tool, you can use it for good or evil. But this one, as a super PAC, not one dime of the money we raise will go to any candidate at all. Money only goes to spread the message, to encourage people to work together, to come together around these solutions. It's not for the candidates, it's for the people. And I saw another organization that had the same question posed to them. And they said, well, PAC stands for Pooled Activist Cash. And so I like that. I like that acronym. So I want to try and give them credit. It's not original to me, but Pooled Activist Cash. And so the goal is that, maybe you made a huge windfall on crypto or on GameStop or something like that. And the system is broken, and you want to screw with the system the same way that those kind of things have done. And so here's the opportunity to put the money into a very specific plan of action for 2022. And hopefully make the system work for the people, give us a fair deal for once. So that's the other thing I'm excited about this week. And the only problem I've run into, though, is trying to get set up with campaign services, because they are very geared towards the duopoly, and that's not what this is. And so I was going to ask if anybody knows, is anybody like experienced working with the Action Network as far as an organizing tool? I did one of their demos this week, and they seem like they have a lot of they seem really great, but I've never really tried to set up anything with them, and so I was hoping maybe somebody else had more information.
Yeah, I can help you with the Action Network, Brian, if you need.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Keith, what you were talking about, we've talked about quite a bit in the previous meetings, and I think there is a feeling that the polarization is not a good thing, and it's not a good thing for the country or the people. And it's and part of what we need to do, I guess that's also part of the vision of Democracy 3.0, is that and TC is very big on what's called deliberative democracy, which is sort of this event we're doing next week on Wednesday night. And the idea is that when you get people in a room who may be from different backgrounds, but you actually set it up right and you have them talk, that the people themselves are not polarized the way it seems to look from the outside, I guess. So that's what I've got to say for the moment. TC, go ahead.
Keith, we're saying exactly what happens in these groups. They have people that are informed and they speak, and people hear different ideas they've never heard before. So, we're on the same page there with opening people up. That's what it's about. And it's like, um, and you know, Brian, I was wondering how you were going to do this, but every time I see you, it's like I think, yeah, I think he's going to do this. Yeah. So I'm very excited about supporting you and being on your team. And then I thought it was great. You asked for something and you got it. So that that's, you know, if there's nothing else about these meetings, it's like you might find out what you get your needs met. So, all right, thanks a lot.
I just want to give a plug to TC. I published an essay on Medium this week about how the legislative package will reduce the risk of nuclear war, how it cuts the nuclear stockpile and stuff like that. And TC said, "Oh, you should turn that into like a video or something." And so I just recorded myself talking to Zoom like this and sent him the video. And then he turned it into a video with like pictures and words and everything. And it turned out really nice. And so I appreciate TC.
Neo, go ahead.
I just said, thanks, you're teaching me a lot. So it's a mutual arrangement here. So very good. All right.
I have actually some computer equipment that were donated for another group called Real Progressives in Action. They're not great computers, but nonetheless, they're donated equipment. And I wanted to do something with a similar idea, except I wanted to make it as a, you know, train someone and also give them a computer so they could also be able to do it, because most people are in poverty in New York. So maybe perhaps also the mutual aid could also focus on how to equip people to do activism. So not just the phones, but maybe perhaps other equipment such as the computers and stuff. Also the fundraising. This is also going to be very important because fundraising actually helps us determine what is actually plausible to be able to use our imagination and its application, especially if we're going to be dealing with a large amount of people or groundwork.
Thanks, Neo. Go ahead, Patricia, if you'd like.
Patricia again. So I just checked Nation Builder Thanks Keith. Are you familiar with that? We'll check more then.
Yeah, since I've had experience with Action Network, I kind of branched out to other platforms that are out there because I wanted to see if there's something maybe a little bit more modern, a little bit more user friendly than Action Network was to get up to speed with. So this is one of the ones that came up that was pretty highly recommended with nonprofits. So I haven't done like a demo with that or like a trial with them yet, but I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, I see they have Amnesty International, so cannot be not good.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, Neo, I like the idea of the mutual aid. There are many ideas for mutual aid out there, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm just here really to listen today. I didn't come prepared. I wish I did. I didn't know what you guys were talking about. Neo invited, said, let's break the duopoly. Said, I'm there. So if you guys need me for anything, I'm here. I'm IT. I do IT for life. So any IT stuff, I'm here to help.
Thanks.
Good, because I got computer equipment here that needs to be serviced so it could be used for activism.
Excellent. Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian, I think UBI is going to be essential, right? During the pandemic, a lot of families had to make some hard sacrifices because income went away, but it empowered them to make some difficult choices that they weren't able to before, you know, to even think about getting a career in a different field or to leave a dead end job that they felt like obligated to stay with because, you know, generations before us found a job and stayed with it for decades and never sought to better themselves because they thought they couldn't. So what this pandemic has shown us is if you give people the chance to think creatively, to come up with new solutions, to be empowered to make those decisions for themselves, like they're not going to stick with the status quo. They're going to go out, they're going to find a way to make things work, and they're going to find things that are more fulfilling than what they've had before. And the other thing that I found very interesting too is here in New York specifically that we've had a very gradual plan to get to $15 as a minimum wage. It's been in effect for the last 6 or 7 years. But as we've been coming out of the pandemic, the workers had leverage for the first time in my lifetime. And not having to go back to these low paying, low skilled jobs to be abused by their bosses and have these awful schedules where they work late into the evening, have to come back early the next morning. Just having that little amount of leverage to say, no, this is not good enough for me. The wages have been going up. Everywhere I drive now, the signs say starting wages of $15 or $16 or $17 an hour. And as somebody who's not college educated like myself, like that was unheard of even 3 or 4 years ago. Like $15 an hour was barely what you would get with a bachelor's degree in the area. And now like Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's are saying they're starting to hire at $15 an hour. So, when the people have leverage and they can exert it, you see change very, very rapidly. So I think the faster that we can engage people on a large scale, we're going to see the changes that we think will better everybody else around them.
Thanks, Keith. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Keith, you're absolutely right. And so Eddie and I spent a couple months working on the UBI component of this legislative package in a way that it addresses a lot of structural economic issues to make the economy work for everyone instead of just the people at the top. So we're trying to solve a whole bunch of problems all in one legislative package, take on all the entrenched interests who are exploiting, profiting, whatever you want to call it, from the common people. And yeah, you will see prices go up when, like you say, people have to bid up the price of labor. That will be reflected in prices. But that's what happened after the end of the Civil War, right? Before the Civil War, 7 out of the 8 richest states were in the South because they're making huge profits, working people and not paying them anything. And then all of a sudden when they had to pay them, and the price of labor went up and the price of goods went up, but there was more freedom. And so that's the trade-off that we have to be willing to accept. And unfortunately, America has kind of been brainwashed isn't the right word, maybe trained to always look for the lowest price on everything, that the lowest is the way to go. And it's created a lot of economic problems as a result. So UBI will empower the people. And just as importantly, when we end mass incarceration and reform the criminal justice system, we bring people home. Like we want an economic floor so that they're not turning around and going back to crime. Instead, they're coming out enamored with the possibilities. Who can they be now? What are the choices? They're empowered to make choices. And the same thing when we end the endless wars and shut down the bomb making factories. We want an economic floor for all those people. When we take away their jobs, at least they'll still have UBI to do whatever they want to do. So yeah, UBI is essential. It's Martin Luther King's, is the first of the 3 evils was poverty, because it drives so many other problems. All right, I'll get off my soapbox and Patricia, I sent you an email and hope we can talk more about the Action Network and Nation Builder. Keith, yeah, if you have any more, I'll take a look at it. But one of the things that really appealed to me about the Action Network is the way that you could like connect all the different organizations like under one umbrella, and as this is sort of trying to be one national campaign with lots of local campaigns, that really appealed to me, the idea of being able to share all that information back and forth. And so I don't know if Nation Builder has that same sort of thing. I'll look into it. Thank you for the lead.
So I'm going to share this, and everyone is also welcome to share things that you think are relevant to the conversation. But this is the economy, and so Brian and I did a YouTube channel for a couple of years about the macroeconomics of UBI. And I'm convinced that there is a cycle in operation. And what happens is that it's a paradox. Here we are in the 21st century. We have this this incredible level of technology. The economy is so productive, and yet you still have poverty, and in fact the inequality is going up. And I'm convinced that what happens is that there's a catch-22, where most people are consumer workers. They sell their labor, and then they use the money to buy stuff from the economy. But what happens is that if the consumer worker does not have enough income, then they can't buy as much things from the economy. And then in turn, there's not as much labor demand in the economy. And so wages stagnate. So wages have been stagnant for the last 40 years. And it is a completely unnecessary tragedy that we are in this state. And if you put in a UBI income and give people more power in the economy, what happens is that right now the economy is actually running at about 75%. Capacity utilization is about 75%. So all the factories, literal and metaphorical, are actually just sitting there idle right now. And additionally, the consumer worker is in a bind because they can't find high paid work. And if you just give people the money that they can spend that money, it actually drives up the demand for labor, drives up wages, and it just makes the economy do what it already can, except for the lack of income at the bottom. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. I think it's a huge part of what's going on.
Yeah, I have a question. Don't know if you guys have the answer. How do we fit inflation in all that when we know that inflation is being driven by corporations and not really?
Yeah, that's a wonderful and complex topic. And the YouTube channel that Brian and I did, Capital Consumption Theory, it has some videos about that. And you're right. You're right that what is happening is companies are raising their prices. But part of that is actually part of the same dynamic, which is that if all the money is stuck at the top and people at the bottom don't have money, what you get is a very steep demand curve. And what happens is that companies find that normally if everybody had money and everybody could buy or not buy products, then there's an incentive to keep the prices low enough that lots of people can buy what you're selling. But when the demand curve gets very steep because of inequality, the companies start figuring out that there's a lot of people who can't afford what they're selling even at the current prices. But if they put the prices up 10% or 20%, there's still 10% or 20% of people at the top of the economy who can afford higher prices. And so the companies are discovering that they can raise prices. It's profitable for them because the few people who can buy their products can buy it even if the prices go up. And so you have inflation, but it is not the classical idea of saying there's too much demand and therefore you get too much and therefore you get inflation. And this is, we've looked at data from the US and from like places like Argentina, places who are, famous for inflation. And the funny thing is that capacity utilization does the opposite thing. It actually goes down. As you get more inflation, the factories actually get less busy. And so the reason is not the reason that most economists sort of think by default, which is that there's too much demand. It's actually that there is not enough money at the bottom of the economy. And so the companies find that, they're better off just serving the top 10%, at high prices, and they don't need to, and they cannot serve everybody at the bottom because everybody at the bottom doesn't have income to buy their things with. So, yeah.
Patricia, we'll put a link in the Discord server to a couple of the episodes that Eddie and I talked about inflation. He's got some amazing charts But the other answer to your question is that the UBI in this legislative package does have an inflation. It will increase with inflation starting in 2025. So if companies continue to try and take big profits, then UBI will go up along with it. But Eddie's correct that by ensuring that more people have money to spend, there'll be more competition to keep the prices down, and that'll help balance some of it out.
You look at Alaska and they have that.
Eddie, are you done with the screen share? Are we got a good image of the UBI economy?
Yeah. You look at Alaska and every year they have that dividend that comes out, and every year when the dividend comes out, prices don't go up. All the stores and all the companies actually have a huge sale, and they lower their prices so that they can capture that money. And that's what would happen if you get UBI. And I'm going on a bit long, but the other thing I want to say is that we're in an era right now where people are innovating on money, and you've got the cryptocurrency and the Web3, and money is what people accept as money, and there's actually room for innovation there. That's another part of the MADAO mutual aid DAO idea, is that we can actually create our own money, and if we can get people using it, it'll work. From an economic standpoint. But
Yeah, or maybe just help folks get their goods, right? Be able to produce for the popular demand, what the corporation is not doing except Walmart.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
people have talents, and people can help each other, and giving them money just gives them permission to actually help each other, which they can already do. But it's not set up for them to do that. So that's all I have for now. TC, on to you.
Well, we're getting close to time, but I want to say real quick, Keith, I can't remember what you said, but I felt so fucking positive when you were talking. It was just like, geez, here's a brother and a soul friend. And then Patricia, I'm thinking about the United People's Assembly, and part of the deliberative democracy is to go to citizens assembly. And I'm thinking, well, the purpose of citizens assembly is to come up with a consensus that they would present to the politicians. And then I realized I'm sitting here in the meeting. I said, Brian already did that. So all we got to do is agree to it, and it's done. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thanks, TC. So it is 11:59. So I'm going to call the meeting over. Thanks everybody for coming. Welcome back next week. Invite your friends.
I just 1 second. I just posted the link to the United People's Assembly. Anybody wants to check them out, check us out. We're doing good work in there, and we need all of you.
Excellent. Okay, thanks. So everybody next week, and everybody's welcome to stay around and chat, but we'll end the meeting here.